Hey guys, we're going to have a look at cross sections in this clip, which is a skill that we haven't looked at thus far. So a cross section is a representation of the topography on a topographic map or the landscape, and on top of that representation we annotate it with either natural or human features. So here's my extract from a topographic map. As you can see here, we're going to construct a cross section between point A and point B, and we are looking at the contour lines along this section. Okay, take note that the contour interval is the number by which the contour lines increase or decrease, and on this map the contour interval is 20 metres. So starting at this point, because it's at sea level, it's at 0 degrees above sea level, we have our coastline here, and then you can see really close contour lines here. Here's 140 here, so that means between this point and this point, the land rises to 140 metres. Along this cross section, we go to a highest point at 213 metres, and then we drop away into the Augusta town site, which is generally around 20 metres, down back to sea level at the mouth of the Blackwood River, and all the way to point B. So our strategy to construct a cross section is we grab a piece of paper. This white rectangle here represents my piece of paper, and what I'm going to do is where a contour line cuts the page, I'm going to record some of those values of contour lines, and what I'm doing is I'm gathering enough information so I can represent that on the map. So I'll get that started and then we'll pick up from there. So as you can see on my piece of paper, I've started to add some information from the map. So I've got 0 metres above sea level in the ocean here. We're at 0 at the start of the coastline. Now between here and here it rises to 140, but because they're quite evenly distributed, I don't need to record every contour line. So here's my 140 contour line here, so I've got that recorded here. I've got 180 here, I've got my 200 metre contour line here, and I've got Green Hill, which I've noted here because I have to annotate Green Hill. At 213 metres. So I've started to collect my information and I'll continue doing that. So as you can see, I've continued from Green Hill. I've got 200 metres here, it drops to 180. Then there's a few contour lines here quite close together down to the 100 metre contour line just there, 60, and then I hit the 20 metres, and it's pretty much like that all the way down to the mouth of the Blackwood River here. Just take note here, there's no evidence of contour lines here, so this land must be below 20 metres above sea level, but it's above sea level, so I've just got a little bump to remind me of my cross section to represent that. And same here, where you've got these lakes that are formed, there is land above sea level, but it's not at 20 metres, and I finish at 0. So I've got the information I need in terms of contour lines. I also need to put in the Bustle Highway, which is, Bustle Highway is here, so I'll just make a note of that. There is a windmill. There's my windmill. Okay, I've got my sand ridges from there to there, so I'll just make note of that. And the last one is the mouth of the Blackwood River, which is there, and I'll just put mouth to remind me. So there, now I've got all the information I need to construct the cross section. What I would usually do then is you would draw up your axes, which I've got above me, and you would put the piece of paper below that. Because I can't do that, just to stop any confusion, I'm going to delete the topographic map and set up to construct the cross section. Okay, so now I've adjusted the axes, so I've got two side axes and a horizontal axis here. This horizontal axis is the distance between A and B from the cross section. Now because I'm going up to 213 metres, I've used a scale of 1 centimetre is to 50 metres, which is 1 is to 5,000, okay, which I've noted here. I'll explain this in a minute. So what I do is I put my paper underneath the cross section and I simply go straight above that point, and I put it's like constructing a graph. I put a mark at that point. So I've got 0 here. Just make sure I've got my marker on. 0, 0 here, up to 140. So it's a steep, almost cliff face there. 180 here, up to 200 here, highest point of 213 here, down to 200 there, and we continue on putting them in. So I'll press pause there and continue putting those in. Okay, so I've put my contour values in. You can see all the dots here, and then what I do is I freehand them in to get the shape of the landscape. So I'm going to freehand them in. See how I go with this. Pretty good, really. Just being careful, come down to 20 metres. So this is the flatland where Augusta's found. I've got my mouth of the Blackwood River here. I've got my section of rise land, and it drops away again, and then here's our ocean. So you might look at this and go, gee, that's really exaggerated, and that's exactly what we've done. We've exaggerated it. If we use the actual scale, we would end up with something that maybe looked like this, and we wouldn't get a full idea of what the shape of the land is, and that's what we call vertical exaggeration. So our vertical exaggeration is the vertical scale divided by the horizontal scale. So our map scale is our vertical scale, which is 100,000. Sorry, our horizontal scale is 100,000 divided by a vertical scale. So it's 100,000 divided by 5,000. So we've actually exaggerated this cross-section 20 times. So all the measurements have been exaggerated 20 times. The last thing I need to do is to annotate. So I've got Green Hill here. Excuse my writing. Bustle Highway is just there. I've got a windmill just there. Sand ridges. Now to show an area of annotation, we use a bracket like that. So that shows where my sand ridge is. And the mouth of the Blackwood River is just there. So there's my cross section. I've got my title, cross section, Augusta. I've put in the shape of the land using my contour information. I've annotated it with the 5 features that I've been asked to annotate. I've got my vertical scale here, 1:5,000. I've got my horizontal scale, which is my map scale. I've got my vertical exaggeration, which is here, which is dividing the horizontal scale by the vertical scale. So that's 5,000 into 100,000, or simplifying the fraction, and that's how I complete my cross section.